afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Lifestyle CEO Show. I'm your host, Donna Maria, America's Business Lifestyle Coach, and you have arrived at the one place on your internet dial where we empower you to break all the rules, build your own corporate ladder, and create the life you love. Today is Monday, November the 20th, and I know you guys are getting ready for the start of the holidays and a great Thanksgiving week. I know I am. My family and I are packing up, and we're heading out tonight to go meet family in another part of the country. But first things first, it's Monday, and that means I got to have a show for you. And today I've got a really great one. You know me, I'm always talking about the benefits of small business ownership, how much fun it is, what needs to be done to get one started, what needs to be done to keep one going. And I love it when I meet other like-minded women who have experience in this area. And I met one recently, and she has put down just about everything she knows, which turns out to be a lot of what there is to know, about smart women and small business, and how great. That's actually the name of her book. Today, on my show, I have got Ginny Wilmerding, the author of Smart Women and Small Business, How to Make the Leap from the Corporate Careers to the Right Small Business Enterprise. Ginny is a small business consultant and former small business owner. She has held senior executive and management positions in high-tech startups, low-tech small companies, and large corporations. She has negotiated the purchase of small businesses, and that's one area of expertise that she has. We're going to talk about that today. And she has worked as a professional author of business plans, private equity placement memorandums, and business cases. She is also a former research associate at Harvard Business School. Lots more qualifications and things for Ginny, but that's just a start. I'm so happy to have you. Welcome to the Lifestyle CEO, Ginny.
Thank you, Donna Marie. I'm really excited to be on your show.
Well, I'm really just delighted to have found you. Now, I'd love to hear a little bit about how this small business thing, started for you. I know you have traditional work experience, and your bio indicates that you're a former small business owner, but you're also a consultant now, so you're still working a business of your own. Is that right?
Well, actually, at the moment, I'm focusing on the book and just beginning to get into some new consulting projects. And then one day, I'm hoping to own another small business, and I'll probably buy one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good thing to talk about, too,
yeah.
And we're going to cover that. But before we get started on some real great questions I know I have and some of our listeners have, can you share a little bit about your background and how the topic of small business ownership, and specifically women in small business ownership, came to be kind of a focus of yours?
Sure. Like many women listening out there who are in the middle of their careers, I started out with very ambitious and went far away from home to pursue my career, and I feel that now I've kind of come full circle, almost back to my roots. But I actually worked abroad in the early years of my career, and that's when I worked for big companies. That was the beginning of my big corporate career. I worked for AT&T and Lucent Technologies and another big company called Hutchison Whampoa over in China. I'd studied Chinese in college and really wanted to pursue business opportunities out there. And I moved back to the States over 10 years ago, and it was the time of the booming Internet craze, and I joined two different Internet startups sequentially as Vice President of Business Development, and those were very exciting years. We raised a lot of money from venture capitalists, and but I have to say, at the end of the day, they were kind of disillusioning years as well. Both of the startups that I worked for went out of business. And I did a little soul-searching around that time because I really wasn't very happy in a large corporation, particularly, here in the States where it was headquartered. That was a little different from working abroad. And I wasn't really that happy in these high-growth startups that, at the time, many of them were raising and spending a lot of money and not really making any profits. And I just began to think, the down-to-earth, old-fashioned small business world might be where it's at for me. And my father actually has always been in the small business world, and he's someone who's never in his entire life had a resume. He never worked for a big corporation. He's he took over a family business. He's done a lot of real estate investing. Anyway, he lives in Asheville, North Carolina, where I was raised, and I guess I just bring that up to say that I was shooting big and shooting far away, and after 15 years or so, or 20 years, I realized that that what was most attractive of all to me was the small business world, and I think that there's a really good fit for many mid-career, business-oriented women who have had the corporate career and want to think about a small business.
Mm-hmm. And so it sounds like it's a little bit in your blood with your dad's experience, too, but you also bring a lot of wisdom to the table from your educational background and also your experiences abroad, as well as your resume of corporate experience. It's funny that you talk about resumes. I wanted to look for mine not too long ago just to kind of see if I could keep it current. If not, I've got my own business, so I wouldn't change the locations of the work, but the kind of work I do has evolved over the years, and it's kind of funny. I couldn't find my last copy of it. And I thought that was pretty bad. So, but also, as you indicate, it's an indication of sort of being an entrepreneur and not really needing to send out resumes. But your background is really great, and it shines through in spades in this book, Smart Women in Small Business. Interesting that you started your overview there by sharing that you probably would buy a business instead of starting one from scratch. And I want to read for my listeners something from your book. I'm looking, so you know, Ginny, on pages 29 through 30, because most of the lifestyle CEOs that I know, and most of the women that enjoy the show, the men and women that enjoy the show, have actually started a business from scratch. And I wanted to read something from your book because it was of such great interest to me, and it really kind of told a story. It says, you can look to popular media to find amazing and happy stories of entrepreneurs who beat the odds, but you need to know the facts. Starting a business is intense, lonely, financially humbling, and time-consuming. A startup will probably require your full focus. Although some founders successfully start a business on the side while holding down a regular job, many women will not have the time to devote to both a regular job and a startup. You must soberly consider whether you have that great business idea, whether you know exactly what business you'll be in, and whether you have the time and energy to develop your concept properly. You'll be alone and overwhelmed at first, and if you have children at home, you may find it very hard to carve out quiet time to start your business in your study, guest room, or garage. If you already feel torn between career ambitions and family, starting a business from scratch may intensify rather than ease those feelings of conflict. And those few sentences hit right on so many issues that, all the books out there that talk about, start your business now. We've got everything in this book for you to start your business. A lot of times they gloss over that, and your book doesn't do that. Why did you think it was important to share that in the first few pages of your book, Jenny?
Well, I think people do have kind of glamorous notions of what it will be like to start a business from scratch. And, I want everyone to know that I'm not really advocating that everyone buy a business instead of starting a business. I just think that women should explore all their options and be as knowledgeable as possible about what they're getting into. There's a chapter in my book, Chapter 8, about starting companies from scratch, and I bring up a book called Diary of a Small Business Owner by Anita Bertina. This is a woman who actually started her business from scratch, was so excited to leave her corporate job, and spent 11 years growing her business to about $1 million in revenue. And she really depended on that business to earn income for her family. It wasn't just a little business on the side. And I think she just kept saying, if you could capture what it would be like on a day-to-day basis to start a business, it's totally different from what you expect. And the reason I like her book so much is because she actually kept a diary, and even people who have started from scratch, and you might ask them about it, their memories might even fail them. They still might sugarcoat that experience of how hard it was to start from scratch. And I think that I just think people should know women should know what they're getting into. And the whole reason that I wanted to emphasize the opportunities in existing businesses in my book is because existing businesses are less risky. They're more predictable. And I think that's what women look for.
Right. And tell me, before we go to there, that's a really important point, too. I want to ask you if you could kind of share any sort of personality concepts that women can look for in deciding whether it's better for them to buy an existing business or start one from scratch. What kind of lifestyle choices and personality types fit one or the other better, in your experience, just broadly?
Well, I think that many women who want to become business owners fall closer to one end of a spectrum or the other. And the two ends that I'm thinking of are the idea person, the passionate idea person. And on the other end is the business person type. Now, some people are in the middle, but many people who start a business from scratch have a wonderful idea or a wonderful expertise, and they're very passionate about it. And they can't even imagine doing anything other than starting from scratch. But on the other hand, there are a lot of women out there who are sitting in their cubicles, in their corporate jobs. They have great business experience and skills, and they just don't have that idea. And maybe they're really good at execution and operations and things that are very important to a small business. So I think the people that are more on the business end of the spectrum will do well buying rather than starting a business. However, even the ones on the idea side, the thing about those people, they're not always as profit and cash flow and money oriented. And so
And that's one of the things that keeps them from buying an existing business. Sometimes, actually, do you see more and more sort of combination personalities where you have a person who really does, for any number of reasons, really want to be a business owner, and also wants to start something from scratch because they want, that sort of pride of ownership kind of issue, in part because they can't afford to buy an existing business. So their choices, they kind of boil down to don't have a business or go ahead and give it a shot. Do you see a lot of that in your work?
Yeah, I would love to give an example of a combination personality from my book, and then I want to separately comment on this issue of affordability. One of the women I interviewed in the book is Hadley Pollitt, and she is actually a well-known fashion designer now. Many people may know her because of her signature belts. It's like a jacquard embroidered fabric with an oval tortoiseshell buckle. That's what she's most famous for, although she does handbags. And I write about her in the book. Her company she started it from scratch, and it's grown to maybe $2.5 million in sales, maybe up to $3 million now, I'm not sure. And she attributes her success to her combination of right and left brain personality. She's artistic, obviously. She's a fashion designer, and her products are very, very creative and artistic. But at the same time, she's a disciplined business person, watches cash flow. She's very tough when it comes to setting prices and figuring out her margins and negotiating with department stores. And actually, I think all women need both sides. So whichever side is your weaker side, you need to work on it. Business discipline and business orientation can be learned. And people who have that business discipline and orientation but don't really have a passion for something need to realize that if they can find an existing business that awakens a passion in them, they can feel that passion too, and they can make a business into their own image. They can do with it what they dream about doing.
It sounds like it's an encouraging message that you're giving, because what you're saying is that a couple of things. Number one, there's a little bit of something for everyone. You can kind of pick and choose what works best for you and sort of bring your personality as it exists to the table. and look around and see what the options are, because there are just so many opportunities now.
Yes, and I don't think that entrepreneurship is one size fits all. I think there are so many options, and sometimes you think you might really want to do a certain thing, and you discover if you do a really thorough search or process that you might be better off doing something else. One of the women I interviewed in the book always wanted to own a bridal shop, and then a business broker said to her, well, here's a really good cash flow business. Here's a Mailboxes, Etc. franchise that's already existing. Would you want to consider that? And she actually did consider it, and she bought it, and she was so glad that she hadn't, she actually could have purchased a bridal shop, but instead of doing that, she did the Mailboxes, Etc. franchise and was so happy, thought it was such a social business and fit her very well. So. Right.
And it's so great to have those kinds of examples from all different lifestyles as you do in your book. We're going to go to our first break. Everyone, I want you to call your questions or comments in to Ginny at 800-773-0355. This is the Lifestyle CEO Show. We'll be right back.
Why is everyone listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com? Because it's the future of talk radio. Every day, more and more people are finding Internet radio as not just an alternative media, but as a replacement to traditional AM and FM broadcast stations. Internet radio offers a wider variety of programs, convenient on-demand listening that meets your schedule, and fewer commercial interruptions. And GlobalTalkRadio.com is already leading the way by matching this content with a highly targeted Internet audience. GlobalTalkRadio.com offers its listeners one of the widest programming varieties on the Internet, from business and finance to self-improvement, paranormal, health, literature, romance, politics, and more. There are also opportunities for prospective hosts who would like to host their own weekly or one-time talk shows. Want to learn more? Check us out at www.globaltalkradio.com and see the future of talk radio today.
Welcome back to the Lifestyle CEO Show, everyone. I'm your host, Donna Maria, and we are here today with Ginny Wilmerding, the author of Smart Women and Small Business, How to Make the Leap from Corporate Careers to the Right Small Enterprise. And this book is hot off the presses, and it's got great insights, advice, and true stories, which, as you know, is always really valuable in books. True stories, true success stories from other women entrepreneurs from all different kinds and walks of life. And this book is just a great read, and it's such a great read that Ginny has been gracious enough to offer to donate a book to me, so that if you call your question in, you will be entered into a drawing to win a copy of this great new book. So you can call your question or comment in to Ginny at 800-773-0355. Ginny, during the break, we were talking about the fact that you and I have two children who are just about the same age. So you must have a lot going on with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old and a book and a consulting business and doing all these, I'm sure you're doing lots of radio shows and probably doing some in-person promotion as well. How do you, this is one of my favorite questions to ask because there's no answer and it's such a broad question, we'd be here all day if you really answered it, but how do you balance all of these different kinds of competing priorities that you deal with? Can you offer any tips to the listeners today?
How do I balance? Oh, well, some days are better than others. I think there are a couple of keys to me. One is flexibility. Lately I have been working extremely hard. I haven't been counting the number of hours, but I think I'm working just as hard as those people with very regular full-time jobs. But the difference is that I can work whenever I find a snippet of time. I can work at night. I can work early in the morning. I think I can work more efficiently because I'm not attending lots of meetings and surrounding myself with colleagues and so forth. So I think flexibility is definitely the key. I mean, I do a lot of driving. I am the one that drives my kids to school and back and takes them to activities. So, I like my work to be planned around their school schedule.
So flexibility, I know for me that's what drew me away from a traditional 9-to-5 lifestyle and into the one I have, although I left that corporate job actually even before I got married, so I didn't have kids at the time, but I kind of saw, a lifestyle issue coming down the pike.
Yeah.
And you seem to have, hit the nail on the head with that flexibility. And do you find that that's in large part what so many women are looking for when they think about starting a business? In other words, it's not so much I have this fantastic passion.
It's flexibility and it's control. I think women want control over their lives. They want to be, they don't really want to answer to somebody else. They're being pulled in so many directions already. It's nice to take charge. And I would say one of the other keys to the work-family balance, if you're a business owner, is the pace of growth of your business. And when you own your own business, and especially when you don't have outside investors, the beauty of it is that you can grow at the pace you want to grow. Given maybe you can't grow too slow, but if you want to work all the time and be incredibly intense, you can, and probably the business will grow and your income will grow faster. But if you want to grow at a slightly slower pace, and you're the owner, you have control over that. You can reach your goals in 2 years instead of 1 year, whatever it might be. And I think that's really the key for business owners.
That's really great. Flexibility and control. God, you just got to love it. We have a call for you, Jenny, from Sholon from Massachusetts. She has a question and a comment. Sholon, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Sholon.
Hi, Donna Maria. Hello, Ginny.
Hi. Oh, Sholon. Hi.
How are you, Donna Maria? I'm one of the privileged few that figure in Ginny's book. I'm on page 15.
Okay.
I wanted to phone in my congratulations to Ginny. And
thank you.
And to thank her for putting me in her book. It's a great honor, especially because I think that 3 years ago when I was thinking about starting a business, I wish her book were around. It would have probably saved me many sleepless nights and given me answers to questions that I still don't have answers of, even after opening my business for 2 years. So thank you very much, Ginny.
And Sholon, your business is the franchise business called, is it Fast Frame?
Yes, I own a franchise, a Fast Frame franchise in Brookline, Massachusetts. It's a custom picture framing franchise.
And what was it that drew you to the franchise business model, Sholon?
Yes, I didn't know much about franchising. I mean, for me, franchises were things like Dunkin' Donuts. A lot of the food franchises that you see on a day-to-day basis, when we drive around.
Sure.
When I wanted to start my business, I realized that, like many people probably do, that, you have certain strengths, but you also are faced with your weaknesses. And my strength was in sales, customer service, client service, marketing. What I told Ginny were the soft sides of running a business. And when it came to the hard side of running a business, meaning, if you decide on a business you want to set up, how do you find the equipment? How do you set up the equipment? How do you run the equipment?
Right.
I was brought up in the 50s by a Chinese family that basically didn't teach much on that side. So it was very, very much a deterrent for me. Every time I tried to research on the price of equipment, I would see basically equipment that cost me $50,000, $100,000, and I would basically back off and say, no, I'm never going to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm. So the franchise business model allowed you to kind of get everything going, and you had all that stuff in place to get started.
Absolutely. If someone has already created a system that works, why create it from scratch? That was my idea.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'll make sure we've got everybody go check out page 15 there. Thank you for your call,
Thank
Shulan.
you very much. Good luck, Ginny.
Thank you. Thanks for calling.
Ginny, what do you think about that? Let's talk about it from the perspective of someone in Shulan's position, but also I'd like for you to comment on the franchise business model from the perspective of a company that does have a business that's doing quite well, and a business owner who may actually be ready to franchise. Do you have any tips for someone in that particular situation?
Well, it's a good way to expand a business if you have the right type of business. I wouldn't underestimate the challenges of taking a business and franchising it, becoming the franchisor. It's a way of using capital from other people to grow a business to a much larger scale than you could do it on your own. And I think it's important that people understand the different motivations of a franchisor and a franchisee. And so since you brought that up, I do believe, I've been very pleasantly surprised as I've researched the franchising industry at how many interesting concepts there are today that would interest women, so that everyone could find something that would be a good fit. There is just so much more variety than you might have thought.
Hasn't it grown over the past, just even the past 5 to 10 years? Aren't there a proliferation of these types of businesses? And also, we can kind of mention, we can kind of ease into the direct sales model too for people who are interested in franchising.
Yeah, and there are thousands of franchisors now. It's really growing. And just the other day, I was speaking to the head of the Women's Franchising Committee at the International Franchising Association, and she told me that like 1 in 7 new jobs in America are created by franchises. And so it's a huge, huge part of the economy. And it's not for everybody, but I think women should realize that there probably is a franchise concept out there or a direct selling concept that would appeal to them, that might work for them. Sometimes they're even home-based businesses. You can do it completely on your own schedule. They're definitely not all retail or food. And it is possible that if you start your business, it might make sense to franchise it. But just be very aware of the different motivations of a franchisor versus a franchisee. And if you go into it with your eyes open, it can be a great fit. And particularly, I think, as Shulan was attesting to, if you're a little bit risk averse, or if certain parts of running a business really scare you, and you don't necessarily want a business partner, a day-to-day business partner, you can think of your franchisor as a business partner. And I think it can be a great fit for a lot of people. And direct selling is a very similar model, just much lower capital investment. You can get started in direct selling for $200 or $300 and build up your business. It really is your own business, no matter whether you're selling scrapbooking supplies or makeup or wine or whatever. You can definitely pick something that's your passion and
there's
and
so
have a
many
business.
things. So we've talked a little bit about franchising, starting from scratch, and direct sales. Kind of getting into those. I want to talk about ask you a few questions about something you mentioned a little bit ago, and that is buying an existing business. Mm-hmm. And I think I had mentioned that so often people think that they can't, quote unquote, afford to buy an existing business. Can you comment on that and talk about how many options there really are out there that people may not know about to actually buy an existing business and kind of avoid all these starting from scratch issues that we talked about at the beginning of the show?
I would love to comment on that. And I think you're right. People, and women in particular, think that this is an unattainable thing unless you have a lot of capital. So I thought, while it is true that you do need to have some money to invest up front, you can't get away from that. I thought I might give an example to help people understand that taking some time to start a business from scratch is not necessarily more affordable than buying something. When you start a business from scratch, you're going to need startup capital. Depending on what the business is, you do need some startup capital. But the most important thing is that you're foregoing an income for as long as it takes for that business to become profitable. A lot of times it'll take 5 years for a new business to actually start generating good cash flow so that you as the owner can take home a nice income. And think of the salary you're not earning during those 5 years, or if you can do it faster, those 2 years. You kind of have to put that into the equation. And maybe I'll just give a really quick financial example so that people really believe me. Okay, so here's an example. Let's say someone quits their job that they're earning $60,000 a year, and they spend maybe 2 or 3 years getting a startup to the level where they could, say, take out $40,000 in salary. That person is out maybe $120,000 to $180,000 in lost income during that period, plus their startup costs. Now, on the other hand, if that person could manage to invest like $45,000 up front as a down payment for an existing business, and maybe that business is worth $300,000, but it already is generating maybe $100,000 per year in profits or cash flow. Now, if you were to buy that business with the $45,000 down payment, and then use your $100,000 a year in cash flow, maybe $40,000 of that amount of money could go to pay off a loan, maybe a 7-year business loan, and the other $60,000 you would be keeping in for your own salary, your own income. And so the money that you're out $45,000.
Right.
But that's it. And you might be able to even and pay yourself back over time, whereas the person who starts from scratch, if you count in that lost income, they've actually put more money into it.
Right. And plus, I guess during that time you lose your Social Security contributions, too. We're going to go to our final break, Jenny, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that example. This is the Lifestyle CEO Show. We'll be right back.
Want to stay on top of what's new in the radio industry? Sign up for a free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio, available exclusively to listeners of globaltalkradio.com, and find out what's new in the world of online radio. Listeners can find out about new shows and special guests. People with something special to offer can find out how to become a guest and how to prepare for an interview. And prospective hosts will find a valuable resource for everything from planning a new program to selecting topics and guests, recouping expenses by selling advertising, and more. Sign up today for your free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio by visiting www.globaltalkradio.com and learn about the future of talk radio today.
Welcome back to the Lifestyle CEO Show, everyone. This is our last segment, and we are here with Ginny Wilmerding, author of Smart Women in Small Business, How to Make the Leap from Corporate Careers to the Right Small Enterprise. You can call your question or comment in about starting your business, buying an existing business, investing in a franchise, starting a direct sales venture. You can call whatever questions you have in about these issues and talk to Ginny directly at 800-773-0355. Ginny, before we took our last break, you shared a great example, real nuts and bolts, pull out the calculator and look at the hard numbers example of how much money is lost by starting a business from scratch as opposed to purchasing a business that's already existing. And, again, thank you for sharing those numbers. A lot of people don't think about those things. Can you share a little bit more about what a person who is thinking about buying an existing business needs to think about, and what are some of the financing options that women can consider?
Yeah, I believe that women really need to be encouraged to borrow money. Frankly, the number of men-owned businesses that are over $1 million in sales outnumbers the ones owned by women by about 8 to 1. Women's businesses tend to remain a little bit small and undercapitalized. So whether someone is going to buy a business or start a business, I think I'd like to encourage them all to think about borrowing money in a sort of formal way from the beginning, so they don't underestimate the funds they'll need to grow it to a reasonable size.
Why do you think that that's not happening?
Women,
why isn't it happening?
It's not that it isn't happening. I mean, actually, women are the fastest growing area in the small business sector today, and they are borrowing money, but they tend to be a little bit risk averse. And I think women consider a personal guarantee or any sort of a lien on their primary residence as a very frightening, risky thing to do.
Do you have to exchange a loan for a lien like that? Are there other ways to do it?
No, usually it's not a lien on the house, but almost always you'll have to give a personal guarantee. If a lien on your house is a formal instrument that may or may not be necessary, but women do need to get comfortable with the idea of a personal guarantee. And maybe there are other ways they can protect their residence through homesteading or whatever. But if you don't capitalize your business adequately from the beginning, it's not going to grow to the size that it could. And I'm not advocating huge businesses here. I'm really talking more about lifestyle businesses. But even so, there are a lot of banks out there that really want to lend money to women. And if you do your homework and do the numbers carefully, it's nothing but a good idea. If you're buying a business, there is also a very good chance that the seller of the company will finance your purchase. So instead of having to go through the formality of getting a bank loan, many small businesses will be seller financed. And so you will, instead of owing the bank, you will have a note with the seller of the business, and you will pay him or her back over a period of time. And that's an excellent way to finance the purchase of a business, and you get the old owner kind of looking out for you, maybe helping you, and hopefully not competing with you if you still owe money. So,
what do you look for? What is someone who says, I want to be a business owner, I don't want to start it for myself, I'm not adverse to taking out a loan. What do I look for when I'm trying to find a business to buy? What are some of the things to stay away from and some of the things to look for?
Well, why don't I start by telling people some places where they can look. Most small businesses are sold through business brokers, and in the day of the Internet, it's easier than ever before to find businesses that are for sale. So some of the websites that I might point people to, one of them is bizbuysell.com, bizbuysell.com, and also Sunbelt. It's Sunbelt Business Brokers, and I'm trying to think of the exact URL, but if anyone wants to look those up on my website, I do have them under the useful links, and my website is www.smartwomen-smallbusiness.com. But anyway, you can go to these sites and you can find businesses that are for sale. So, and before you do that, you'll need to narrow down, are you interested in manufacturing or retail or wholesale or restaurants or service businesses? And think about which type of business you're interested in. Think about geography, or maybe you want something that's relocatable. Maybe you want to be working closer to home, or you're more flexible. How much do you want to travel? Think about the business sector, and then if you actually find an existing business that appeals to you, you can actually predict what your day might be like by observing and their place of business and seeing, is this really what I want to do? Which is very hard when you're starting from scratch, to imagine what it's going to be like running your dream business.
And those brokers, do they generally work in exchange for a commission that is paid by the seller to them for helping find a buyer?
That's right. The seller pays the business broker a commission. So a business broker generally will not be working for you, the buyer. They'll be working for the seller Although you can.
What kind of receipts? How many years of tax returns and what kind of financials do you want to see from a business that you're thinking about purchasing?
Well, in the beginning, the business broker will have prepared a selling memorandum on the company, and you'll be allowed to see that if you sign a non-disclosure agreement, a confidentiality agreement. And they may or may not include tax returns that first time, but what they will do is tell you a little bit about the business in the memorandum and then restate the cash flows of the business. And this is kind of a key concept because small businesses don't report very large profits on their tax returns generally. Small businesses have what's known as discretionary cash flow, and that cash flow might actually look like it's going out the door for certain expenses, but a business broker would take some of those expenses back and add them to the discretionary cash flow enjoyed by the owner. So sometimes the automobile or certain travel expenses, maybe even health care benefits and expenses, or interest expense will all be added back so that the new owner could run things differently. Might not need to structure the debt in the same way, might not need an automobile, might not need the health care, and so that you can decide out of that discretionary cash flow what you can, how you might do it differently.
And Ginny, do you recommend that some buyers who aren't comfortable with all these concepts engage the services of a consultant or someone to advise them, or maybe even work with the broker to effectuate the sale or negotiate it?
Yeah, even though the brokers are working for the sellers, they're very helpful to buyers. And if you go pretty far down the road, you'll need your own accountant and your own attorney anyway, and they can help you. It's not as intimidating a process as people think it might be. And lots of times there are businesses for sale for, as little as $20,000. I mean, there may be much earlier startups, but it's yes. The point is there are a lot of existing businesses out there that could really benefit from the experience and skills of the women who are out there and looking to do something entrepreneurial. It's a good fit, and it's very hard to start a business from scratch. And I was reading your book quite a bit on that end since I did it myself. It's funny that we're talking about that. I interviewed someone for an article in my newsletter today about that very topic, and we talked about things like would you do it all over again, and did you have a business plan? And I talk with so many women and meet with so many women who have. Of course, we're all geniuses after the fact, but, there's all these great things they wouldn't do. And it's very interesting, Ginny. I'd like your take on this. I was reading a book by Martha Stewart. I think it's called Martha Rules. And one of the things she talked about was, you have to have a business plan, and it has to have all these details. And she went into quite a bit of detail about what the business plan had to contain. And then a couple of pages later she said, and by the way, I didn't have one. It was so interesting, but it's funny. The person I interviewed for my article said, I did not have a business plan, but I did plan my business. Does that make sense to you? It does, actually. I think, it's one thing to go through the outline and put your business plan on paper, but one of the things that's really critical is knowing exactly what business you're in and, making sure you're not spreading yourself too thin, and sometimes that is more intuitive than it is, something that you put on in a plan on paper. You want to know what business are you in and how are you making money? What's your business model? And there are quite, lots of people who start a business without a formal business plan and have done really well. So. Right, and it's sometimes hard for people who have this great passion out of which is bringing forth this entrepreneurial spirit. They have this great passion, and those types of planning details and all that, I got to make money because, I guess I do have to eat and put gas in my car. But what do you say to kind of motivate someone who really just, sees those financial details and all that stuff is just kind of, it's like getting in the way of my creativity. Yeah. What I would suggest to those women is find another great woman out there who could help you write a business plan. You don't have to do it yourself. And that's the consulting side of small business. If you're not the person who's good with numbers and, bring in a fresh perspective. A lot of times there's a friend of yours or someone who is, will help you do that, and maybe for not very much money. They don't necessarily have to even be your business partner. I mean, I got into a relationship with the woman who I did become business partners with, because she was that kind of person. She had never written a business plan, was not good with numbers, and I said, why don't I consult with you for a little while, and I'll write you a business plan, and I'll do a valuation analysis for the company. And that worked out really well. And so you don't have to do it yourself, and there are probably a lot of women out there that would love to help you with that.
Right. Now, are you one of those people? When are you going to be? Tell me a little bit about what your future plans are in terms of starting up the consulting side of your business again.
Well, I'm the next year is going to be a little bit of a transition year. I want to spend a lot of time getting the message out about this book, which has just been published about a month ago. And so I'm definitely taking on some consulting projects this year. One is with a company in China that tries to put small businesses in the U.S. and small businesses in China together. Mm-hmm. But after this time period, I am hoping to go out and look for another wholesale importing business to buy. I was in a wholesale importing business before. It got me connected back to China, and I'll probably do that again. And I might write another book, but I'm definitely a business person at heart, and that's what's fun for me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and the things that you have learned over the years in this book. I want to remind listeners to visit Ginny Wilmerding's website at smartwomen-smallbusiness.com, and that coincides with the name of this great book, Smart Women and Small Business, How to Make the Leap from Corporate Careers to the Right Small Enterprise. And there is something in this book for any woman who is looking to be successful in business, whether she's inclined to start one of her own or buy an existing business or go the franchise or direct sales route. Thanks a lot for joining me on the Lifestyle CEO, Jenny. It was great to have you.
Thank you, Donna Maria. And it's about to be holiday time, so I wish everyone happy holidays. And don't forget the mothers, sisters, friends, and aunts who might like to read this book.
That's right. Everybody want to make sure that you take a look at that. I've got some great shows coming up for you guys here soon. We are going to be taking a little bit of a break next week for the Thanksgiving holiday, but I'm going to be back in December and going strong with Catherine Seda, author of Search Engine Advertising. She's an entrepreneur columnist who's going to tell us how to use the Internet and maximize our search engine capacity for our businesses, because high-ranking search results means money, and so we all need to understand how that works if we have a business, whether it's actually Internet-based or not. It's very important to be able to show up on the Internet in reference to people searching for things. We've also got some other great shows coming up, but I want to tell you that if you're in the Washington, D.C. area this coming Monday, November the 27th, during the 5 o'clock segment of the news at the CBS station, which is Channel 9 in Washington, D.C., I'm actually going to be on the show to talk about moms in business. That's the 5 o'clock segment of Channel 9 News in Washington, D.C. on Monday, November 27th. I hope you'll tune in and tell me what you think. I'll be talking with the anchor of the 5 o'clock news broadcast. Have a great holiday weekend. Drive safely. Enjoy your meals. Enjoy your family. And I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, while you're enjoying your holiday, remember to break all the rules, build your own corporate ladder, and create the life you love.
You're listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com.